New Nordic.
A final report expected about the deadly implosion of the Titan submersible in the North Atlantic, and a chilling clue about the 2023 tragedy is now out.
A few pieces at a time, the U.S. Coast Guard has released new evidence related to the tragedy. The latest is a 20-second audio recording. It was captured by an underwater microphone 900 miles from the spot of Titan's last known position at the moment that it imploded, killing the 5 men aboard.
ABC's Jim Ryan. A volcano in Hawaii is active again.
Kilauea, which has been erupting sporadically for the last couple of months, is once again spewing lava, shooting it up into the air. Kilauea is one of the world's most active volcanoes. This time it's mainly only a show. No homes are in danger. Lava flow is on the floor of a crater, but a vent shot lava about 330 feet into the air. It's the 9th eruptive episode since December 23rd. The site has visitors gathering now at Volcanoes National Park to get a glimpse. Alex Stone, EBC News.
Fish among the 14 nominees up for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That band among 8 groups have never been on the ballot before. Outkast also included for the first time. Other nominees include Mariah Carey, Chubby Checker, and the White Stripes. An international panel now selects the inductees. They'll be revealed in April. Dave Packer, ABC News.
Give the star in your life the brightest gift in the world. Name a star after them. This is Rocky Moselle with International Star Registry. For $59 and a call to 800-282-3333 or visit starregistry.com, you can name a star for birthdays, weddings, or even memorials. Over 45 years, we have named millions of stars for celebrities and individuals from around the world. The star you name will be recorded in book form in the U.S. Copyright Office. Visit starregistry.com or call 800-282-3333.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
4:05 now, and with your KVNU News update, I'm Will Feelright. Well, after being terminated with no warning last July for severe cause, former Utah State University Deputy Athletic Director Jerry Bovee filed 11 causes of action against his former employer yesterday afternoon in U.S. federal court. Now, Bovee filed the lawsuit against USU for retaliation, defamation, false light, breach of contract, and several other causes of action that allege that USU President Elizabeth Cantwell, Athletic Director Diana Sabo, and Head of Legal Affairs Micah McKinney all intentionally retaliated against him. Now, the lawsuit alleges that the Office of Equity failed to follow up and never investigated the incident that USU claims was the reason for its surprise terminations back in July of its head football coach, deputy athletic director, and 2 other athletic staff members. Now, the 4 were all dismissed by USU over alleged failures to report an April 2023 incident of domestic violence as required by USU policy. All have maintained no wrongdoing in reporting the situation. Meanwhile, a 14-year-old Utah boy who was found alive over the weekend after spending 21 hours in the mountains alone in sub-zero temperatures is talking about his miraculous recovery. Now, Mason Archibald, a Bear River Middle School 8th grader, is telling the miraculous story of survival and how he ended up being able to get out without injury. Now, Mason was last seen riding a yellow snowmobile in the Franklin County area on Saturday at around 11 o'clock and was reported missing after his group noticed that he was gone and they were unable to find him. Now, search and rescue teams from Franklin, Cache, Weber, and Box Elder counties, along with dozens of volunteers, spent the overnight hours searching for Mason unsuccessfully. Now, he was later found by a volunteer Sunday morning around 9 o'clock. Mason explained that he did a lot of walking, leaving his sled behind after reaching a slope that was too steep to traverse. Doctors say they are shocked that he did not suffer any frostbite. It's one of the first cases of its kind that they can remember in more than 30 years. Well, in college basketball last night, Mason Falsliv had 22 points, leading the Utah State Aggies as they defeated the Colorado State Rams in the Spectrum 93-85, leading to a very happy Coach Jared Calhoun after the game.
We're 22-3. Let that sink in. 22-3 with 9 new players. So I'm going to be very positive tonight. But yeah, to answer your question, you got to give Colorado State a ton of credit.
Now the Aggies prepare for a big matchup coming up this weekend, Sunday afternoon, as they'll face off against the New Mexico Lobos. Well, we got a storm that's coming our way for tomorrow, and that's going to still leave us with cold temperatures overnight tonight, as we've been only in the mid-20s today. Tonight, we're going to be back into the single digits, and with the wind chill, it's going to feel much colder. Tomorrow, storm expected to bring some snow about 11 o'clock and continue through the afternoon and overnight hours, as we could see a couple inches of snow in the valley, with more likely in the mountains. And news and weather brought to you this hour by Quality First Insurance. If you're a business owner or HR director struggling with your employee benefit package, call Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance, 752-0101. I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News Update.
If the cold temps lately have you turning up the thermostat, I've got a more efficient way to keep your home comfortable. Call Cardall's Insulation. That's right, insulation. Now you're probably wondering, does insulation actually go bad? Well, if your home was built before 1980, you should really consider new insulation, because today's insulation is so much better. Even a lot of newer homes don't have sufficient insulation. So if your home is cold, if you feel a draft, call 755-5012. Cardall's Insulation, 755-5012.
News Talk KVNU.
This is Dr. Red, chiropractic physician with Red River Health and Wellness. Are you suffering with fatigue, brain fog, headaches, intestinal issues, weight gain, and you haven't been able to find any answers?
Before I started at Red River, I was having a lot of stomach pain. I was overweight, severe anxiety, some depression. I had been to multiple doctors. I'd been to specialists. We had done tests, and no one could find anything that was wrong.
Red River Health and Wellness can help you.
I'm on anxiety medicine. I've lowered my dose, and I'm working with my doctor to continue to lower it. I'm sleeping through the night. I have energy for my kids. I've lost 30 pounds. I just feel really good.
Our goal is to teach you and educate you so you know how to manage your condition a lot more effectively, and you know what to do and what not to do for the rest of your life.
Schedule your appointment today at 855-55-RIVER. Red River Health and Wellness, with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Call Red River today.
Get ready for the boldest way to Baja, Mexico. Morris Columbus Travel and Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines are excited to announce the Ovation of the Seas, the biggest ship in the West, sailing from LA starting in June. Enjoy skydiving, a water park, bumper cars, and flow rider surf lessons on your way to Ensenada and Cabo. Call Morris Columbus Travel to book today.
KVNU's For the People with Jason Williams and Bill Walter.
And it is Utah known as the fraud capital of the world. Not because we have more people committing fraud, but because we have so many people falling for it.
Going beneath the headlines and connecting you to the newsmakers.
The radio is a great way to get the word out to a lot of people in an emergency. So we thank you for your help and being a partner with us.
For the People on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM, online at 610kvnu.com, and on the KVNU mobile app.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. I'm Jason Williams. It is beautiful, really chilly, but beautiful Wednesday afternoon here in Cache Valley, February 12th. Thank you for tuning in. 21 degrees right now here at the Radio Ranch at 4:10 in the afternoon, 4:11. It's going to be single digits again tonight, with the wind chill even worse. And then, as Will mentioned during the news, storm coming in, we should see more typical temperatures of this time of year coming back around. So bundle up, and that wind chill is no joke. I was out in it a bit early this morning. Whew. It is unseasonably cold, but we're used to it. We can handle it, and we know what to do, right? Or at least I hope you do. Coming up on the show today, what lawmakers had to say about a bill file that was open that instantly grabbed eyeballs and even made national headlines. A Republican House Majority Leader, in fact, Jefferson Moss, has requested a bill file. He requested this on the House floor this morning, and the bill file would do something that Republicans have been very vocally opposed to at the federal level when proposed by former President Joe Biden and some Democrats. Well, not really. I shouldn't say proposed by Joe Biden. Biden was kind of iffy on it, but some Democrats in the House and the Senate had proposed over the last few years expanding the Supreme Court, limiting the tenure of justices, taking that lifetime appointment position away and making it, like a 25-year, 20-year kind of thing. And all of this was very controversial when discussed at the federal level, and Republicans traditionally here in Utah had said, we shouldn't meddle with this type of thing. Well, House Majority Leader, Republican Jefferson Moss, has requested a bill filed to increase the size of the Utah State Supreme Court. It's no secret lawmakers have been pretty angry with the Utah Supreme Court after they got their hands slapped, deservedly, for fibbing with some ballot language, and a lower court, then backed up by the state Supreme Court, said, nah, you can't do that. You've got to be honest with voters. How dare they, right? Those courts. So the legislature still angry about that, and instead of learning the lesson that it was there to be learned for them, they are looking at finding a way that would be publicly palatable to change the court, to get outcomes they want. So this is one proposal. It's interesting because, I'm actually a fan of these conversations. Not all conversations when it comes to the Supreme Court for the nation or the state Supreme Court. Some of the proposals I think are really, really bad ideas. But I'm kind of open to the idea of expanding the court as the population of the state grows, as the challenges of the state grow. I actually think we need to have conversations about expanding the size of the legislature as well. We'll break it down. The reaction to this, what lawmakers have said in either support, or some Republicans have actually curled up their noses at this. When the request was made this morning, there were audible groans from some Republicans, but others in leadership were supportive. We'll see where it all goes from here. But again, we'll break down what Moss is actually asking for and what he had to say on the floor today as a justification for this. So, story here locally. I think this is a cool idea because it coincides with some ongoing efforts that are both the efforts that are tying USU research to water conservation efforts, to healthy river and restoration efforts, to keeping the wildlands around us as healthy as possible. There's been a change of mindset when it comes to the beaver. Traditionally beavers were seen as a nuisance and something to be removed. Even up around the Beaver Mountain area, they never caught the person, but there were some beavers that had built dams up there in what is a wilderness area, and they were removed by a professional. That was controversial. This was about 10 years ago, if you remember. And there were a lot of rumors about who was behind this and who might want those beaver dams removed, but it was actually illegal. No one was ever caught. The mindset has shifted, and the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources has teamed up with Utah State University. USU has something called the Beaver Ecology and Relocation Center, BERC, BERC. And the BERC has been in operation for several years now, and they actually have, if you want to see it, they have a location in Millville that goes out and they live trap beavers that may be a menace in some areas. There are some areas where you don't want beavers building a dam. So they live trap beavers and remove them from certain areas, and then they bring them back for evaluation. If they're determined to be healthy, they take them to other areas because there are landowners that want beavers building dams in certain areas of their land. And so this beaver swap program kind of has launched, and it's been running for a few years now. But this is a pretty big expansion of this. And Troy Cooper, director of Zootah, said that they want to be involved at their location at Willow Park. Zootah is hoping to raise some funds for what would be, if successful, a big beaver exhibit, but also would be a research facility that the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources and Utah State University could use. Cooper said they're looking to raise about $80,000 to fund this, and they've raised about $50,000. They have applied for some grants. That's a little rocky right now with the incoming administration putting some pauses on these things, but maybe those grants will open up, and we'll see. The Burke location in Millville, again, the location where they live trap beavers that some landowners want removed and take them to areas in the state where landowners want beavers. This beaver swapping program is also a research program to track the health and livelihood of the beavers in general. And Cooper said that, the Zootah has played a role in this throughout. They said the beavers that have been brought in by the Burke live trapping program, sometimes they're too young and need a bit to mature before they could be relocated and survive. So Zootah serves as kind of a holding area where they can be evaluated. Their weight can be brought up, their health can be improved, and then they can be relocated to areas, again, where landowners are asking for beavers to. If you want to know more about this, USU actually has some really cool videos on this, Burke at Utah State University, where if you're curious why a landowner might want a beaver on the land, there are a lot of reasons, but the biggest is it's actually a healthy ecology that develops when there's a beaver dam in the mix. If a landowner, especially a rancher with a lot of acres, has a stream or a river running through, there are reasons in some areas why you would want a beaver to build a dam on that river. And it's complicated, but it makes sense also. This is a coordinated effort to team up. And again, the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources and Utah State University have been working together on the Beaver Ecology and Relocation Center program for years now. But this is the first time that Zootah will be officially in the mix, again, if they're successful, offering up their facility both as a research center, but also in exchange for that, the creation of a beaver exhibit, which would be the first new exhibit at Zootah in several years. So Burke has been a valuable resource, officials at the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources said, for landowners who want the ecological benefits of beavers. But you can't just throw out a sign that says vacancy and have beavers move in. And Cooper said that through Zootah's work with Burke and others, they've had some great success. Becky Yeager, volunteer coordinator at the Burke Center at USU, said the reason that they're excited about the idea of setting up an exhibit at Zootah is that they occasionally trap a beaver that is injured, or again, that might be too young to let go on their own, and so they need a place to stay. And they thought an exhibit would be a great way to not only nurse those beavers back to health before relocation, or to let them age into appropriate age and weight to be likely to survive in the wild, but then people could come through and enjoy them and learn more about them. So the goal, again, of course, is the Zootah facility is sort of a short-term solution for the beavers that are injured or too young to be released yet. And the intent is to get them paired up, weighted up, get their health up, and then release them into the wild. Those that are maybe too injured to be released in the wild would be permanently housed at the public exhibit at Zootah. Interesting. I was surprised by this. I knew they'd been working for a while, but interestingly enough, during the discussion around this, Burke mentioned, or representatives of Burke at Utah State University mentioned that they've captured as many as 75 beavers in one season before. The average is 45 to 50, but they've captured more than 70 or as many as 75 in one season before, and all of them have been successfully relocated to other areas, not euthanized. And so they trap as many as they can during the season. from snow melt until the new snow starts to come. And this is actually a trained and certified job to safely trap and relocate beavers. And the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources said that they welcome this partnership. So again, currently Burke has a place in Millville where the beavers are kept after being captured, but they call it the Beaver Bunkhouse. I like that. But this partnership with Zootah at Willow Park would allow them to expand their efforts, do more beaver relocation and rehabilitation, and then also would it may be a spot for the public to come and see the beavers up close, learn more about them. They're working with Utah Division of Wildlife Resources and USU again to build the exhibit. They've raised about $50,000 of the $80,000 they need for this. And if you would like to learn more about this, see some of the video they have already, or to even help fundraise for the effort, check out the Zootah website. I've linked to it on our Facebook page. All of this, of course, with some great photos, courtesy of Cache Valley Daily's Rod Bohm, who went out and took some snapshots of some recently trapped beavers. And that is all at CacheValleyDaily.com. Zootah wants to develop a sanctuary for captured beavers to help them with the USU and Utah Division of Wildlife Resources relocation efforts. This would be a public exhibit and rehabilitation center at Zootah, and the first new exhibit at Zootah in several years. So, full story with photos again at CacheValleyDaily.com, and we'll be back with more right after this.
Nestled in the heart of breathtaking landscape, Maple Creek Ranch on the north end of Cache Valley is more than just land. It's where your story begins. It's the perfect location for building your dream home. But only a few lots remain, so act now to claim your piece of paradise. Imagine mornings with breathtaking views, evenings by the fire, and every moment surrounded by the peaceful charm of nature. With stunning views, babbling brooks, and miles of wilderness. Google Maple Creek Ranch to learn more about these final few lots.
Hi, Cache Valley. This is Dan Newmeyer at Blue Sky Restoration, formerly ARS. Do you know what to do if you are experiencing water flooding inside your home? First, make sure everyone is safe, turn off the water, and call Blue Sky. Do you know where the water shutoff is at in your home? If you don't, call Blue Sky and we'll send out a representative for free to help you find it and tag it so you can be prepared if an emergency arises. Remember Blue Sky, restoring your property and your life for a brighter tomorrow.
Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor. Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Visit managerbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
25 NCAA championships, 18 conference championships.
And the Aggies are going dancing.
10 tournament championships.
The Aggies are pulling out the scissors, and they're going to cut down the nest.
Our winning culture continues. Our Utah State Aggies play here on the Aggie Sports Network.
Pre-game begins 1 hour before tip-off. Don't miss game day on your home of the Aggies. News Talk KVNU.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. It's 9 years away still, but top IOC, if you're not familiar with that, if you haven't heard that enough, that is the International Olympics Committee. Top IOC officials will actually be arriving in Utah, and they'll be in Utah for an announcement of who's actually going to run the Olympic Organization Committee. So we're already getting the 2034 Winter Games. That's a done deal. Now that can be taken back. There's time for them to change their mind, but I don't think that's ever happened. But nothing's really underway yet until, well, this week. Top International Olympic Committee executives will be here tomorrow in Salt Lake City, and they'll actually be sitting down to meet with a lot of people. But part of this is also a big announcement of who's actually going to run the show. Fraser Bullock, president and CEO of the Salt Lake City, Utah Committee for the Games, said that part of the visit is an update from the Olympic Committee and also from Utah officials that are involved in working on the board. But the vast majority of it is them sharing best practices with organizing committees and basically getting the ball rolling. So this is a big training conference of sorts. But again, it will come with a big announcement that they have chosen someone to serve as executive director and oversee the entire show. So it is officially underway. Bullock also said that they've been through all of this before, way back in the early 2000s here in Utah. So there are a lot of folks involved that were there then and understand it pretty well. But a lot has changed, and a lot of those folks are either retired or no longer with us even. So there's always opportunity for new learning. So they said they are excited about this. They know that what Utah did in 2002 was very popular with the Olympics Committee, and they hope to repeat a lot of that. But there are a lot of new things that need to be planned for as well. Not just new technology, but also a lot more people here in Utah, and anticipated a lot more people coming when the Olympic Games get underway in 2034. So IOC Olympic Games Executive Director Christopher Doobie will be the first to arrive, and that is Thursday afternoon. And he'll be staying in Utah throughout Saturday and will be part of an announcement ceremony hosted by Governor Cox and other officials, including representatives of the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, who will serve on Utah's Olympic Organizing Committee. And this new organization that will be announced tomorrow and Friday will be responsible for staging what will basically in the end be a $4 billion privately funded event. That's the end outcome of this. The IOC, again, has already signed off on the makeup of Utah's organizing committee. But there are a few spots, including who's going to serve as the overall chief executive director of all of this. So Bullock, who is 69, served as the chief operating officer for the 2002 Winter Games in Salt Lake City and then helped launch the bid for 2034. Obviously, Bullock said, I expect to play a key role, but hoping someone younger will be chosen to oversee the whole show. So Utah Olympic organizers have 9 years to put this all together, and with a lot of experience from 2002, a lot of experience from the International Committee as well that they can pull from. Last week, officials said that the remaining decisions to be made about utilizing what amounts to roughly 2 additional years of preparations than we had ahead of 2002, and they want to make the most of that. So they're also, the IOC executive is also expected to push Utah organizers to finalize plans for observing the next Olympics, the 2026 Winter Games, which will take place in Milan Cortina, Italy. Those games are spread across much of northern Italy, and it's a different scenario than what we'll have here in Salt Lake City and Park City when the Winter Games come in 2034. But they are hoping that Utah officials can actually learn a lot from that as well in how to make this as publicly accessible as possible. That was the one complaint that people had in 2002, was that it was sometimes impossible for Utahns to get in on this and to be a part of it in any way. And so they're hoping to make it a little more accessible to the locals this year. So, again, this is all part of a 2-day delegation celebration that will kick off tomorrow as IOC officials arrive here in Salt Lake tomorrow afternoon. And we'll have some audio of the governor's event, which I believe is scheduled for Friday morning on Friday afternoon show. But even though it's 9 years away, the official organizing and planning of Utah's 2034 Winter Games, it launches tomorrow. We'll be back with more of KVN News for the People after this look at the news with KVN News. Will Feel Right.
Well,
Well, thank you, Jason. A 34-year-old North Logan woman is facing charges for allegedly intentionally putting bacteria in her son's PICC line, causing him to become very ill, according to law enforcement. Yesterday, Kayla Barlow was charged in 3rd District Court with aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony, following a lengthy investigation by multiple law enforcement agencies. Now, according to a warrant for Barlow's arrest, in February of last year, a detective from the North Park Police Department notified police at the University of Utah that the woman was being investigated for allegedly abusing her son and that the boy had been admitted to Primary Children's Hospital in December of 2023. Now, the hospital staff had expressed concern because anytime Barlow visited the boy, he would immediately begin to get sick. And when Barlow left, he would get better until Barlow returned. The detective stated that the hospital had reported that human feces was detected in the boy's drip line, causing him to become very ill, the charging documents detailed. Now, court paperwork also noted that Barlow was interviewed when her son was born at 28 weeks and that she was found to have a crochet hook with her, which police suspected was used to induce labor. Well, a new study by the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute and the Economic Development Corporation of Utah is highlighting Utah State University's major role in driving northern Utah's economy through research and innovation. Now, as an R1 research institution, USU leads in aerospace, energy, and life sciences, attracting major federal funding and preparing a skilled workforce. But Cache Valley is also emerging as a tech and biotech hub, thanks to its partnership with industry leaders like Thermo Fisher and Cytiva. Now, while strengths in research and talent are fueling growth, a lack of venture capital and lab space is presenting some challenges. And a man whose remains were discovered back in September of last year, 20 years after his disappearance, were positively identified as Stephen Willard Anderson. Now, the identification came by DNA testing, which led to the closure of the 2-decade-long cold case. Anderson disappeared back in June of 2004 when he left his home in Murray to make the drive to the family's cabin in Dutch John near Flaming Gorge. Now, when he failed to answer his cell phone, his father drove to the cabin to check on him and found no evidence that Anderson had been there. Now, the case went cold but gained attention of the nonprofit organization United Search Corps. They collaborated with the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office in Utah, and in the final days of September, law enforcement and volunteers located and retrieved the human remains that were found submerged in a vehicle in Starvation Reservoir, which is right around the halfway point between Murray and Dutch John along Highway 40. Well, cold temperatures expected to continue overnight tonight, as we've been only in the mid-20s today. Tonight, we're going to be back to around 7 overnight with the wind chill. It's going to make it feel even colder. Then the storm coming in, bringing some snow tomorrow afternoon. That's going to continue through the afternoon into the overnight hours. Could see a couple inches of snow in the valleys from this storm, but eventually it'll start turning to rain on Friday and into the weekend as temperatures will get warmer. And Cardall's Insulation brings you our weather on the 6s. Today's insulation superior to what you'll find in older homes. And if it's time to upgrade, call Cardall's Insulation, 755-5012. I'm Will Feelwright with your KVNU News Update.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packard. The U.S. Justice Department announcing legal action against New York State's governor, attorney general, and head of the Department of Motor Vehicles over New York's sanctuary city laws, which limit and forbid state law enforcement to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement.
New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. It stops today.
Bondi says other sanctuary states are next. At the White House today, President Trump talking about 2 phone calls aimed at negotiating an end to the war in Ukraine, one with President Putin and the other with Ukraine's President Zelensky. Trump says he agrees with Putin's position that Ukraine will not get Crimea back from Russia and will not be allowed to join NATO. The prisoner swap that saw Russia's release Tuesday of American schoolteacher Mark Fogel today saw Russian crypto criminal Alexander Vinnik released by the United States. This is ABC News.
Hi, I'm Wendy, co-founder of Bell Sculpt. I know what it's like to feel uncomfortable in your own skin, worrying about how you look, feeling drained, and just not like yourself. Hormone changes, pregnancy, or aging can lead to weight gain and challenges that aren't your fault. That's why I believe so strongly in what we do at BellSculpt. I've had a procedure myself, and it transformed more than just my shape. It boosted my energy, metabolism, and confidence. If you're ready to feel like yourself again, BellSculpt is here to help. Book your free consultation at bellsculpt.fm.
This is Senior Branch Office Administrator Monique Benson bringing you the daily financial market report on behalf of financial advisor Josh Birmingham and Edward Jones. Equity markets closed lower on Wednesday as the consumer price index showed higher than expected inflation. The Dow closed down 225 points at 44,369. The Nasdaq closed up 6 points at 19,650. And the S&P 500 closed down 17 points at 6,052. And in the bond markets, 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 4.63%. In stocks of local interest, Home Depot was down $9.22 to $407.14. Lowe's Companies was down $6.77 to $250.26. Nucor was down $4.56 to $133.55. Thermo Fisher was down $7.23 to $538. And Northrop Grumman was down $2.98 to $470.86. The price of crude oil was down $2.02 at $71.30. The spot price of gold was down $7.90 to $2,924.70. This has been today's financial market report brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Josh Birmingham, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice in Providence, Utah. If you would like additional information, please contact our branch at 435-713-6925.
Meet me downtown. Meet me in downtown Logan.
Hi, this is Chloe Allen. I play Emma in Music Theater West's production of Emma the Musical. Meet me downtown at the Utah Theater on Monday, Thursday, and Saturday for our delightful show. And enjoy dining and shopping in downtown Logan with those you love and care about to make Valentine's Day a special occasion this year.
Meet me downtown. Meet me in downtown Logan.
Every girl loves to get flowers for Valentine's. Flowers are thoughtful. Flowers are beautiful. Call right now and schedule flowers to be delivered on Valentine's. Plant Peddler Floral is ready for your call. Don't know exactly what to order? Plant Peddler can make suggestions and help you find something just right. They make it easy by taking your order right over the phone. Just have a delivery address and a credit card ready. Call Plant Peddler Floral 753-0444. When the message is important, Plant Peddler Floral 753-0444.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Thursday on This Morning, America's First News. What will Congress do with the cost-cutting uncovered by Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency? We'll chat with Congressman Dusty Johnson of South Dakota. Also, more women feel they need to wait to have children thanks in part to the child care crisis. And the office vibe when a former NFL player is your coworker. Thursday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Coming up, a lot of legislative action to talk about. We'll dedicate the majority of hour two to this from, as I mentioned, a bill request that was made on the House floor today by Jefferson Moss, House Majority Leader, seeking to expand the size of the state Supreme Court. We also had some data out today that critics of the Inland Port program. I don't really know what to call this. This started 4 or 5 years ago with Speaker Greg Hughes kind of ramming this through and creating a committee. It's been, there's been a lot of controversy, and it's a great idea. It's too bad it's mired in a lack of transparency and controversy because the Inland Port itself, the idea, could be very useful. We've talked about this. They're planning an inland port location in the Tremont area, which is going to mean a lot of jobs and of course for Tremont a lot more people. either coming to town or staying in town. And so they're grappling with some growth issues projected around this as well. But jobs, it is causing some concern because they're butting, the proposed design right now is butting right up against the wild bird refuge. And, you disrupt those migratory bird patterns, you disrupt a lot of the ecology of northern Utah. That'll affect agriculture, that'll affect the Great Salt Lake. So, there are plenty of reasons for the public to be involved and skeptical and asking questions at least. But this report today drew a lot of ire because it's a report that shows that despite promises from the legislature that this wouldn't happen, taxpayers are basically funding a lot of development around these inland port locations that are underway throughout the state now. And the developers are making a lot of money, but the taxpayers are just spending money. So that report came out. Lawmakers were very defensive about it today. We've got the audio. Also, some questions around some. We're seeing, some bills pop up that seem to be wanting to go back to the days of the drug war. Mandatory minimum bills, 3 strike bills, laws that didn't really work well in the late 80s, early 90s, so they were popular then. And so the question came up, is the era of justice reform is it over here in Utah? Are we giving up on that? The idea of reducing recidivism and helping people get back on their feet rather than sitting in prison for nonviolent offenses. Lawmakers also kind of defensive at that coming up today. So we've got the audio for you coming up in hour 2. And like I say, we'll spend most of the hour on the legislative news of the day because it was a pretty big day. I wanted to highlight this. The legislature, I'm sure, saw this and they talk about this. The governor has his own Office of Families headed up by Amy Winder Newton. And much of the work behind this is looking at some of the trends, declining marriage rates, declining rates of people having children, people getting married and not having children or having fewer children, and studies trying to figure out what's behind this, what could turn it around. And of course, it being a religiously conservative state here in Utah, the idea of fewer people getting married and having families is considered a public harm. So there are some public policy angles to this, but today it's simply a study that was published by BYU's Brigham Young University's Wheatley Institute. They do this every year, and they do it throughout the year. This isn't just a 2-week snapshot. They spend the entire year, the Wheatley Institute at BYU, running this American Family Survey. And they team up with the Center for Study of Elections and Democracy, the Deseret News, and YouGov to actually do the sampling. And they've done this since 2015. So this is they're in their 10th year at this point. Although this is data from 2024, but this is the 10th report they've published now. Here's what it found. So first off, they were able to sample about 3,000 adults, and they got a sample that they said mirrors the general population. And what they found is that, one of the lead investigators on this project, Jeremy Pope, and let's see, working alongside today in the announcement, Professor Chris Karpowitz. So these are the two that kind of stepped up as the spokespeople for what was many people involved in doing this survey. And they said that what they found, they said the 2024 survey was released, again, 2024 data, but released here in 2025. And they found consistency, and that was encouraging, they said. They said they found consistency across the past decade, actually, in Americans' attitudes towards marriage, how people value parenthood, and how families choose to spend time together. So they said that was encouraging to see 10 years that kind of refutes the panic that a lot of conservative scholars have been expressing over declining marriage rates and more. They said that attitudes over the last 10 years are pretty consistent. So Pope said, we tend to overestimate how public opinion is changing, and partisan politics might actually play a part in this. Because for some people, say a Republican wins an election and the next time around, a Democrat wins an election, and both of those results are an extreme negative for extreme partisans, people who have those partisan blinders on so tight they can't think around the idea that someone in the wrong party is in power, and it upsets them. It can actually change life decisions. It can change how a parent parents. It can make a parent angry or heavy-handed with their children. It can also decrease happiness in the home. But the Pope said they also say this is overestimated a lot. Said, I can understand why people would assume that this is a huge factor, but looking again at the consistency, regardless of who was in the White House, who had the majority in Congress or the Senate, the overall attitude of Americans has remained consistent over the last 10 years, despite political outcomes. So they said that's probably one theory behind this, that extreme partisan politics and politics becoming almost like a religion for some people, probably not the explanation for declining marriage rates. So they also looked at optimism. They looked at people's attitudes towards their own marriage and marriage in general, and they found that data showed that 47% of married people said their marriage actually grew stronger over the last 2 years. Only 5% said their marriage grew weaker over the last 2 years. 10 years ago, those numbers were 49 and 6. So 47.5 this year, 49 and 6 in 2015, not much change. However, Pope said people remain pessimistic about the state of marriage across the nation. In 2024's data published this week, 34% of respondents said marriage grew weaker as an American institution, and only 11% said it grew stronger. In 2015, roughly 10 years ago, those numbers were 43 and 5. So again, a bit of a shift in the negative direction there. But the study also found that people very much value their children and their partners more than their careers in politics. 9 out of 10 parents said raising their children was their life's greatest joy. I want to talk to that 1 out of 10 that I must have a very different attitude. And while there were differences along the lines of, people's professions, whether they were in blue collar work or working in an office somewhere, or whether they were politically consistent Democrats or Republicans, they said there were obvious differences in the respondents, but the one thing that was the same, regardless of religious affiliation, political affiliation, the industry they work in, how long they'd been married, and more, is that the attitudes, again, were consistent. They did find that there were more similarities than differences between the survey respondents. The study found that both right-leaning and left-leaning families eat dinner together on a regular basis, attend family activities together, and I love this, get in arguments about similar things at similar rates over the last decade. That hasn't changed much. Pope said there is sort of this idea out there that there's a kind of a red model and a blue model for families that permeates our politics and our hyper-partisan discussions sometimes. But he said, again, this survey data doesn't support that. Said, though it would be too much to say there's no difference between Democratic and Republican families, by and large, they're actually very similar, including how they responded to our survey questions. So outside of the politics of this, the study also found that 71% of respondents identified economic challenges, low wages, and the fact that the wealthy in our country are amassing so much wealth as reasons they believed it was harder for their family to get by. On the other hand, less than 50% of respondents listed cultural issues that dominate political campaigns as something that affected their family in any way. Only 48% said those issues affected their family. The majority said not important to us as a family. And that actually is a huge drop 10 years ago, 70% said the cultural issues were important. This year, 49%. One last little tidbit here. In addition, 55% of the respondents in 2024 said that the grocery store prices, inflation, things like that were the highest source of stress between them and their partner in their marriage. And Pope acknowledged that there are some partisan politic effects here, in which if there was a Democrat in the White House, Republicans tend to feel more worried about wages and inflation and the cost of groceries. If there's a Republican in the White House, vice versa, Democrats tend to be more worried about this. But he said overall, again, it was consistent that economic issues, wages, living paycheck to paycheck, making the budget ends meet every month was a far larger concern for most families and for most married couples, saying it was the biggest challenge to keeping their marriage happy. And way down on the list, the cultural issues that seem to dominate the world of political campaigns and, unfortunately, our legislative session this year. So an interesting look at this. Overall, again, a year of surveying, another year of surveying by the Wheatley Institute at BYU. And Pope did say in the press conference today, he said they do acknowledge a couple of things that the hypothesis behind this is that we've been through a rough couple of years, and it did kind of put a pause on the number of people getting married, but now it looks like those rates are ticking back up, and that it might be useful for politicians to realize the issues that are filling their campaign coffers when they run for re-election, the hot button issues, the bandwagons, the cultural issues that get people really riled up when they see it on social media. Very few of those issues have anything to do with the health of the family in the United States. And Pope said they're hoping their survey drives that point home, at least for the Utah legislature finally. The Wheatley Institute's American Family Survey is out. You can download it via the link I've posted on our Facebook page. Again, this is done every year by Brigham Young University, working with the Center for Study of Elections and Democracy, the Deseret News, and YouGov to do the actual sampling. And this year, they sampled more than 3,000 adults across the country. And this it concludes the 10th year of data they've published at the Wheatley Institute on the health of the American family. Check it out. I've linked to it on our Facebook page. We'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
Do you see yourself traveling, working part-time, or moving somewhere warmer when you retire? Your Edward Jones financial advisor wants to help make your retirement goals a reality. They can help you figure out where you are today and how to get you where you expect to be. Working together, you can plan for what you want and be ready to take on anything unexpected along the way. Call one of our 11 branch locations in Cache Valley or go to edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
How was your drive to school?
Let me tell you, I had to get my iced coffee first. I just can't seem to put it down. My favorite rapper just announced a tour. My phone was buzzing like crazy. I'm so excited. I had to text all my friends right then to talk about it. Then, someone started calling me and...
Let's try that again.
I turned my phone off right away. I never drive distracted.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Serving overseas was just the beginning. We might be home from war, but our mission continues in communities all across the country. It's why we're out there in times of peace and crisis, providing meals to the hungry and supplies to the sick. It's why we're giving strength to those who are too weak and bringing resources to those without them. Service doesn't stop when we're done serving. It's what makes us the VFW. Learn more at vfw.org.
Coming up on the Thursday edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show, Tulsi is in as Trump's DNI. How's it looking for our man Cash at the FBI? We'll break down the confirmation battles for you. Also going to be joined by Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. What does he think about what Doge has been up to, the out-of-control spending they're trying to rein in, and the Democrat opposition to sanity? We'll talk about it on Clay and Buck.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
legislature. It was a big day on Capitol Hill, from a proposal to expand the state Supreme Court, maybe double its size, to a study that had lawmakers playing defense, a study that showed taxpayers are lining the pockets of developers in all of these inland port projects around the state. Lawmakers pushed back against the suggestion of the study. What they had to say in their own words, we've got the audio. That's all coming up in hour 2 of today's show. Leaving you with this here in hour 1. I'm hard on the House Speaker, Mike Schultz, because I actually like the guy, but he's reactionary. He flies off the handle without a lot of information sometimes. And I feel like leadership needs to be a little more responsible than that. Now that he's House Speaker, I've said it many times, it's time to put the big boy pants on and think things through before you open your mouth. That said, I love this proposal from him. House Speaker has opened a bill file himself, which basically means it's going to happen in the House. Who knows in the Senate? And it's a proposal, simply House Bill 447, to put $65 million towards CTE, Career and Technical Education. He said this came after he visited the Davis School District's Catalyst Center and saw what the kids were learning and doing there, and then kind of pairing that up with some other things he'd learned as House Speaker about the current state of some of these more hands-on technical colleges throughout the state of Utah. He said, I don't think we ever decided as a state to reduce their priority. I think it just kind of happened, and it's time to change that. He said a lot of these kids could be out in their dream career in less than 2 years through some of these schools, and we're not funding them well enough. I like the idea. Whether it survives in the Senate, again, I don't know. But if you want to read the bill, I've linked to it on our Facebook page. And that coincides with a proposal to strip almost the exact same amount of money from the four-year institutions. So that's why I say the future in the Senate might be a little murky. We'll see. Hour 2 of today's show and everything that happened on Capitol Hill today.